Welcome to the Pump Take Sports Show for part 3 of our NHL 2021 Season Preview series, I guess you could call it, because there's 3 parts. So today's the award show. So we're going to go through the Hart Trophy, Norris Trophy, Vezina Trophy, Calder Trophy, Conn Smythe, the Art Ross, and the Rocket Richard Trophy. So going to be going through all these awards. These guys are going to be giving their picks on them and kind of talking about why each guy's going to win the award. So we'll start with the MVP. Lucas, who do you got?
So I just want to preface by saying that all of my award predictions are heavily based on my regular season and playoff predictions as well. So my Hart Trophy winner for this season is going to be Nathan MacKinnon. I think he is the best player in the league to currently have never won the award. I think he's the second best player in the league after Connor McDavid. And I think that Colorado's success in the regular season is going to put him above, put his case above Connor McDavid's case as well. Nathan MacKinnon had 35 goals and 48 assists for 93 points last year in the regular season. And he was even more impressive in the playoffs, which can kind of be a better indication of how he's going to pick up this season. He had 9 goals and 16 assists for 25 points in 15 playoff games. Colorado didn't get far enough for him to fully be able to realize that potential, but he was leading the playoffs in scoring by a mile. I believe he even led the league in playoffs right up until the very end. So Nathan MacKinnon is way overdue for an MVP award. And I think this is the year he pulls it off.
I completely agree with you. As you were saying before, he's been knocking on the door of winning the MVP for a few years now, since he broke out in 2017, 2018. He's been a runner-up in 2 of the last 3 seasons. And if Colorado can have a successful regular season, I think that'll really push MacKinnon into winning the MVP this year. So that's my pick as well.
Yeah, I think MacKinnon was more deserving of the Hart Trophy in the year that Taylor Hall won it. That was the year that our finalists were Taylor Hall, Nathan MacKinnon, and some guy named Anze Kopitar. Unfortunately, Kopitar finished 3rd, but I think MacKinnon deserved it that year. But I think that was a bit of an oversight. But this year, I guess, is the year that I think he fully pulled it off.
So you said that MacKinnon was the second best player in the league other than McDavid, but I think you're forgetting about Quinton Byfield.
Well, Quinton Byfield isn't technically in the league yet, but when he is, he'll be up there. Don't worry. He'll be knocking on.
Quinton Byfield he's too good to be eligible for the award.
Yeah.
Disqualified.
Yeah.
All right, the Norris Trophy. Lucas, who you got?
So I'm going a little bit off the board here. This guy isn't even in the top 10 for the betting odds for this award, but I'm going with Miro Heiskanen. I'm surprised that he wasn't one of the favorites to win this award, especially after the amazing playoff he had with the Dallas Stars last year. In the playoffs, Miro Heiskanen had 6 goals and 20 assists for 26 points as a second-year defenseman in the league. Miro Heiskanen is one of the most elite young defensemen in the league. And I think that when he plays alongside another elite defenseman such as John Klingberg, I think their play and their numbers will be able to build off each other. And I think Miro Heiskanen is going to have one of the most outstanding offensive defenseman seasons we've seen since Erik Karlsson.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good pick. So I have 2 guys that I want to mention here. One's just sort of a front runner, and one's a little bit more of a deeper pick as well. The front runner that I want to mention is Victor Hedman. He's been a finalist for 4 years, and obviously he won in 2018. In his 12 years in the NHL, Hedman, he's been extremely consistent, and he seems to just be a lock to be at least in the conversation for the Norris every year, and he's currently the betting favorite. So that's just something worth mentioning, that he appears to be the most likely going into the season to be the winner. But a guy that I want to mention that isn't as highly rated, he's still being talked about in the discussion, that's Cale Makar. After making his debut in the 2019 playoffs, he entered last season with very high expectations, and he impressed. He scored 12 goals in 57 games for the Colorado Avalanche last season and scored a total of 50 points. He's now averaged 17 goals and 54 assists in his first 82 games in the NHL, which is almost a point per game in his entire career, which for a defenseman is incredible. And I think if he can duplicate those numbers this year, or exceed them, considering that he's only 22 years old, that combined with the success of the Colorado Avalanche could really put him in the conversation for this award.
I totally agree with everything you said there. Yeah.
And that pick has nothing to do with it. His name is also Kale.
Yeah, spelled differently.
Yeah.
All right, the
C-A-L-E.
Vezina Trophy. Lucas, who you got?
Top 10. All right. So this one was a tougher pick as well because there's so many guys that are up there for that could potentially pull this award off. But I think that based on the divisional projections and what team potentially has the chance of really running away with their division, I'm going to go with Frederik Andersen from the Toronto Maple Leafs to win this award. I think Frederik Andersen has been a top 5 goalie in the league for most of his stint in Toronto. Last year, he fell off a little bit in terms of his numbers, but Toronto added TJ Brody to their defensive core this year, and I think that the fact that Toronto doesn't have a hugely star-studded defensive core will actually be a positive for his Vezina case, because I think that he's going to be able to drive the Leafs to the top of this division, and as I've mentioned in the previous video, to the Stanley Cup final. So I think Frederik Andersen is a goalie that's been knocking on the door of consideration for this award for years now, and I think that this is the year that the Leafs really break out, and so does Freddie.
Mm-hmm. Just in terms of dominating the division as well, that's kind of what I'm basing my pick on too, and that pick is Andrei Vasilevsky of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's the only goaltender in the NHL to rank top 6 in save percentage above expected in each of the last 2 seasons. Combined with Tampa Bay's good defense, they don't give up a lot of like really quality shot attempts in front of him. And this has made him one of the best goalies in the league of just covering up any problems that might arise. He's already an elite goalie on the league, arguably the league's best team. And I think that if Tampa Bay is able to dominate this division this year with teams like Florida, Nashville, Detroit, Columbus, and Chicago that aren't like fantastic, like competitive teams, I think that Andrei Vasilevsky could win enough games to be in real consideration for the Vezina.
Yeah, Andrei Vasilevsky is probably fundamentally the best goalie in the league, and he's also on the best team. So Andrei Vasilevsky is a lock to be in consideration for this award for the rest of his career. So you can never go wrong with predicting Vasi for the Vezina.
Yeah, and even in terms of guys that aren't a lock, another guy I wanted to mention in this video is Carter Hart. He's only 22 years old, and he's already well on his way to being extremely successful as a starter. At the end of last season and into the playoffs, he looked very, very good. And considering his young age, it's not unreasonable to think that he could take a bigger step up this year and be a little bit of a sleeper for this award.
All right, the next award on the list is the Calder.
Rookie of the Year. This is always a really fun award because you get to see those young guys. And honestly, as much as I wanted to pick a Kings rookie for this because we've got Quinton Byfield and potentially Alex Turcotte and Gabe Vilardi that'll all be like potentially, hopefully, top contenders for this award. I had to go with New York Rangers' newly minted starting goaltender, Igor Shesterkin. Last season, he's a little bit of an asterisk for this award because last season he did play in 12 games at the end of the season. He had a 10-2 record with a 232 goals against average and a 932 save percentage. Sorry, 252 goals against average and a 932 save percentage. For a young goalie, he's 25, I believe. For a young goalie who's just getting into the league, those are outstanding numbers. Igor Shesterkin has also been dominating the KHL for years, so he's used to playing against top talent and playing against grown men in a top-tier league. So I think it should be a pretty seamless transition for him where he's going to take over the #1 starting job in New York. And I think he's going to be an exciting bright spot for a team in New York that's got plenty of them, including, I think, who I predict Kale will be picking for this award as well.
Yeah, just touching what you like. I really like the point that you make about the KHL, especially with picking a goalie to win the Calder, because I think confidence is a very big thing. And what I've noticed is can tend to happen with a lot of young goalies is if they come in and they're not ready and they haven't been playing against like that fast competition in a like professional men's league for a long time, they can kind of struggle when they first start to establish themselves in like a predominant starting role. So I think that experience in the KHL will really help him. Another New York Rangers player, the first overall picks, Alexis Lafreniere. This is just one that's just obvious and just worth talking about. And it feels like it's a little bit of just an easy thing to just mention in terms of winning Rookie of the Year, just because he was so highly touted. But he's coming off 112 point in the QMJHL. So obviously the talent is there for him to be a dominant player and on the next level. It's just all going to be, in terms of him winning Rookie of the Year, how he's able to transition into the NHL game.
Another thing to mention about Lafreniere as well is the fact that the New York Rangers won the draft lottery, and they jumped up so many spots from, I believe they were like 10th or 7th or 10th or something like that, or 7th in terms of odds to win the first overall pick at the draft lottery. So the New York Rangers were not a bottom feeder team last year, and they already have an established core that can play alongside Alexis Lafreniere. It's not like Lafreniere is going to play on a team like Detroit or Ottawa or LA that's like really struggling to have a culture. Like the New York Rangers, I have them picking. I'm picking them to win, to make the playoffs this year. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how a top end first overall pick like that can mesh into a team that's already so young and dynamic.
Yeah, because it's not like what happens with a lot of extremely highly drafted players where they step into an organization like Ottawa or the Kings or something where they're struggling to establish their sort of the future of their franchise, and the guy's asked to do too much too early. He's in a case where he can kind of the Rangers have a very strong veteran presence in their lineup, and they were already not an atrocious bottom feeding team. So he can kind of just step in and hopefully be able to learn in a little bit of a smoother transition.
Yeah, put him with Hart finalist Artemi Panarin or on Zibanejad's wing, or maybe even with Capo Caco, and watch them do wonders together. The New York Rangers are going to be scary this year.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the Rangers making the playoffs, the Conn Smythe Trophy. Lucas, who do you got for that one?
So the Conn Smythe Trophy is the playoff MVP. So this has to go to a player from our Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche, as per our last video. I'm going with Cale Makar here for the Conn Smythe. I think that Nathan MacKinnon will have an unbelievable playoff run as well, but I think Cale Makar's solidifying himself as a true number one defenseman on defense will be what really pushes the Colorado Avalanche to the top in the playoffs this year. As I mentioned before, Colorado's one potential weakness in their lineup will be their goaltending. And a guy like Cale Makar will be very, very important if Colorado is to get to the Stanley Cup and win it. Cale Makar will be essential to making sure that their entire lineup is solidified by a solid number one offensive mobile defenseman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just another player on the Avalanche, obviously, and candidacy for the Conn Smythe would be Nathan MacKinnon. We've talked about this in this video and in the previous videos that we've recorded on the NHL. He's one of the best players in the league. He's a superstar. He's the best player on the Avalanche. And if they're going to make a Stanley Cup contending run, he's going to have to be a big part of that. So I'm going to pick him to win the Conn Smythe.
All right, moving on to the Art Ross Trophy. Lucas, who do you got for the top scorer in the NHL?
So I think I could easily say MacKinnon for this as well because he was my MVP choice, but I'm going to go with Connor McDavid. I know it's hard to say Connor McDavid would win the Art Ross but not win the MVP, but I think that potentially Leon Draisaitl's ability to take away a lot of the votes from McDavid will put MacKinnon over the top for the MVP. But Connor McDavid, I think, is far and away the most dynamic offensive player in the NHL. Every time he's on the ice, he either scores or almost scores. He's constantly doing something dynamic. Last year, he had 97 points in only 65 games, I think it was. So if you put him in a full and healthy position on the Edmonton Oilers this year, I think I think he could run away with the NHL scoring race.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a 2 or 3 horse race with MacKinnon and McDavid both involved. And I'm going to pick MacKinnon to win the Art Ross as the points leader. He's coming off 3 consecutive 90-plus point seasons. And if he didn't get injured in 2017 and COVID didn't shut the league down last year, 2 of them very likely would have been 100-plus point campaigns. obviously because of the shortened season this year, we're not going to see that. We're not going to see a 100-point season, but McKinnon is such a dynamic offensive player that he should easily be on pace for that again.
Mm-hmm.
And the final award, the one with the coolest name, the Rocket Richard Award, the goals leader. What are you thinking here, Lucas?
Okay, so I swear to God, I'm not a Leaf fan. I know I seem like I'm being biased towards them, but I've got Austin Matthews winning the Rocket Richard. Last year, Matthews had 47 goals, and every single season, we've just seen Matthews become more and more dynamic and comfortable offensively. I think this could really be a season where Austin Matthews explodes and runs away with this, with the goals race, especially with guys like Alex Ovechkin getting a little bit older. I know Alex Ovechkin continues to defy age, but eventually he's got to start slowing down a little bit. And I think Austin Matthews is on the rise, and I think he could potentially put up, by my prediction, like 40 goals in the shortened season, which would usually be on pace for like 65 or something like that, or 60 goals. So I think Austin Matthews explodes this year and potentially even takes a run at the Hart Trophy. But I think he's definitely our Rocket Richard winner.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Austin Matthews is going to be my pick as well. He's one of the purest scorers in the league, and he should have no trouble being one of the top players in this race.
Another thing to mention too is that he's playing with Mitch Marner on his wing, who is one of the most elite passers in the league. Mitch Marner tends to be a little bit scared to shoot the puck, and he's a pass first type of player. So if you think about all the beautiful little feeds Matthews is going to be getting from Marner on his wing, it's hard to imagine that Austin Matthews doesn't at least get really close to winning the Rocket Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And before we close out, I'd just like to say that Connor McDavid is my MVP pick. Best player in the league. Let's go. Thank you very much for watching. The video about our award picks for the NHL season. And we will see you next time.